Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the studentloanjustice.org live stream. I'm doing kind of a little bit of a late live stream tonight, folks. We are here in Cleveland, and I'm very happy to report. First of all, thanks to everybody who donated. We had some tire issues on the way down. We had to replace both of our tires. So we thought it was going to cost like $150 for two tires. It turns out to be a lot more than that, like more than double that. But whatever. I definitely appreciate everybody who pitched in. By all means, join them if you can at our website, studentloanjustice.org. So yeah, folks, we're actually having a good day anyways. For those of you who are new, let me just say welcome. We are the oldest, largest, and really only legitimate citizens group fighting for student loan justice. Now, for the first 15 years of our existence, that meant very moderately fighting for the return of the bankruptcy protections that the founding fathers called for ahead of the power to declare war and raise an army in the U.S. Constitution. Right? Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, many others of the founders, they were adamant that this country, everybody in it, should have uniform bankruptcy laws. Well, bankruptcy protections were stripped uniquely away from student loans beginning in the 1970s, but it was really a fait accompli in 1998. They even extended this to private student loans in 2005. So they took away bankruptcy protections, they took away statutes of limitations, believe it or not. And they gave the government and its contractors all sorts of ridiculous, insane, sociopathically strong collection powers that allowed them to turn, say a $30,000 loan into a $300,000 loan. And without the threat of bankruptcy protections on our side, without statutes of limitations, also without fair debt collection practice laws, truth in lending laws, even state usury laws, also refinancing rights, if I could throw that in, student loans became the worst big government, hyperinflationary, college feeding, college fattening, I should say, nationally threatening lending system that this country has ever seen, and probably that the world has ever seen. You know, the Department of Education owns 85% of all student loans. If the Department of Education were a bank, it would be the largest bank on earth. For the past 10 years, the Department of Education has been booking $50 billion plus in profits. $50 billion was posted in 2012, and the lending portfolio has effectively doubled since then. So you can only imagine what sort of government profits are being generated today, at least on paper. But folks, I am here to tell you, this is now a failed lending system. It's done. It's toast. It's over the cliff. Put a fork in it. Even before the pandemic, we found out that 80%, 4 out of 5, of all federal student loan borrowers were never going to be able to repay their loans. We now can say with confidence that the default rate for 2004 students who were only borrowing about a third of what is being borrowed today was 40%. So if the default rate for 2004 students is 40%, what do you think it is for more recent students? And again, this is all pre-COVID. So folks, I'm here to tell you, this lending system, it's done, it's toast, and in this current era, we are now finding ourselves in where the nation needs very significant economic stimulus. It turns out that the president can cancel these loans by executive order. No congressional appropriation needed, no congressional approval needed. In other words, not a dime in taxes needs to be raised. And by the way, not a penny would be added to the national debt when the president, whether it's this president or the next, by the stroke of his pen, orders the Secretary of Education to cancel all federally owned student loans. There simply is no better way to no cheaper way no more expedient way, and no better targeted way to massively stimulate the economy. The $1.5 trillion in outstanding federal student loan debt, the actual amount of that $1.5 trillion that is actual unpaid principal, well, nobody knows what that number is, but I'm a pretty good guesser, and I would estimate that at the very most, it might be $500 billion, probably significantly less. Could even be zero. We don't know. Nobody knows. Not even the Department of Education could tell you of their portfolio how much of it is unpaid principal, how much of it is monopoly money, how much of it is interest and penalties and fees rolled into new loans, capitalized again, reprincipalized, monopoly money. But my best guess is that over $1 trillion of that $1.5 trillion is fluff. It's over and above what the taxpayers actually laid out many years ago. Hey, Ed McKinley's here. And by the way, if you have any questions or comments, I'm going to try and keep it short tonight, but by all means, throw out your thoughts. I'm very happy to respond to them in situ. Things are going really well right now. Things are moving really fast. So I'll try to cover my points quickly tonight. But by all means, if you have anything that you'd like to say, throw it on up there. We love criticism, by the way. We love the tough questions. So throw them out, and I'm happy to respond to them in situ. Ed McKinley says, euthanize it. That's right. I like to say, in the words of Grover Norquist, take it to the bathroom and drown it in the tub. We've got a lot of support. Our petition on change.org, which you can see, I think, posted above as a part of this thing here tonight, this live stream. Our petition, when I woke up today, it had like 600,000 signatures. Well, right now, I don't know where it is right now, but a couple hours ago, it was like 660,000 signatures. So I'm guessing we're probably getting close to 700,000 signatures as we speak. This is very good. This bodes very well. If we can pick up 100,000 signatures a day, we can have well over 3 million. In fact, we can have 3.5 million signatures on this petition by November 3rd, by the election. And make no mistake, folks, this petition that we started in March, calling for the president to cancel all federally owned student loans by executive order, is exactly the right thing to do. In fact, it is so right that while it's true we were the first people to call for it publicly, we were a lone voice in the wilderness for many months. But I'm very happy to say that Elizabeth Warren and other Democrats, oh good, Ed says we're now around 690,000 on the petition. That's great. Leading Democrats, Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, have, I don't want to say stolen, but I will say appropriated, adopted, imitated, whatever you choose to say, the idea. So Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, and many other leading Democratic senators are now calling on President Trump by legislation, by a Senate resolution, to do exactly what we said, cancel federally owned student loans by executive order. So, well done, people. Well done. This started with us. Make no mistake. And you all out there who have been doing the hard work to promote this petition and defend our argument, you deserve a massive thanks. We are changing this presidential race. We are changing the politics in this country, and you all should be very happy to be a part of this. But guys, our work is not done, and let me say a little bit about that Democratic proposal. They didn't say, President Trump, listen to studentloanjustice.org and do what they want. No. They didn't do that. They said, President Trump, you should cancel student loans by executive order. You should cancel up to $50,000 in student loans by executive order. And they also wove in a whole bunch of really partisan, divisive rhetoric into their resolution. So I don't think the Democrats actually wanted Trump to do that. They were just trying to score some political points in this very important presidential election. And good on them. I'm glad that they did it. It's very good that they have validated what we have been saying for months and months and months. In fact, I think since last August was the first time we publicly spoke out about how the president can and should cancel student loans by executive order. All the other loan cancellation plans we're hearing about are, I'm sorry to say, but they're just nonsense. They are doomed to fail. They require Congress to pass a law that raises revenue, usually by taxes, but who knows how, that raises $1 for every dollar in loan cancellation that is needed. So they have to pay for this loan cancellation by raising taxes. And number one, that's just not going to happen. Not during this pandemic, not before the pandemic, and not after the pandemic. It's just politically, it's not going to happen. Congress will never pass a law that raises a ton of money. And even if they did, the Department of Education, which I am very sorry to say, but am duty bound to the truth to report, has never had any desire or intentions of canceling any loans. The Department of Education is a very, very bad guy against the citizens in this fight. Whatever Congress might pass, which would be a watered down version of that nonsense thing in the first place that I said a minute ago, the Department of Education would take whatever legislation Congress did pass and they would bureaucratize it into the dirt, into meaninglessness. So let's avoid all that, shall we? Let's avoid all the bullshit, BS, Washington posturing and speech making, and then at the end of the day, at the end of that sausage making machine, a bunch of limp, disgusting, bland, non-nutritional, like spam comes out. Let's just not do that at all. Let's cut right to the heart of the matter. And let's cancel these student loans by executive order tomorrow, or at least by the election. Make no mistake, folks, this is now a presidential campaign issue. 4 years ago, we couldn't say that. 4 years ago, neither Hillary nor Donald Trump had anything meaningful to offer the voters. Right now, Joe Biden is at least mouthing the words bankruptcy protections, as in he is pledging to return bankruptcy protections to student loans. I don't really believe it, but he's saying it, and it sounds good. He's also mouthing the words loan cancellation, and my best guess is that he will be piggybacking off of Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, and other Senate senators, and making a similar pledge to what they called for. He'll probably pledge that if he's elected president, he will cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt. Now, again, we've been doing this for many years, folks. We are a bipartisan group. We have no love for either party. In fact, we view both parties with extreme suspicion, and for very good reason. So I have to tell you that we are very good at reading between the lines, and we have very little confidence that what Joe Biden is currently pledging to do, and even if he were to pledge to cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt by executive order, it would not be very believable, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is what the voters hear. And out of the 55 million people out there in the country with student loans or who are co-signed on them, 44 million of whom were never going to be able to repay their loans, even before the pandemic. That's 44 million people who were losing sleep over their student loans, who are desperate, and who vote, or at least would vote if given a reason to. Well, Joe Biden just mouthing the words that I just said is enough to get a very large percentage of those people off the couch to the polls and voting for him. So what I'm telling you, folks, and you heard it here first, is that if nothing were changed in the two presidential candidates' positions by the election day, let's say the election were held tomorrow. If the election were held tomorrow, all things being equal, Donald Trump, it would almost be impossible for him to win, assuming that we had a similar election to what happened 4 years ago. Because we're talking about now 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, maybe even million people who would go out and vote, or who maybe wouldn't have voted before, or who will vote for Biden instead of Trump, or who will, where they would have voted for Trump before, or who will vote for Biden where maybe they would have voted for Trump before. Did I say that right? Anyways, we're talking about a 15 million vote swing. Some of that would be taken directly away from Trump, so we're talking about 15, maybe even 20 million vote increase for Biden, plus some kind of a decrease for Trump. That is enough to turn the last election into a landslide for Biden. I'm sorry, folks. Now, maybe the country's changed. Maybe the other issues make Donald Trump an overwhelmingly strong candidate. But dudes, I am telling you, this issue, this student loan issue, is the biggest voter bonanza to come across national politics in my lifetime. There is no voter bonanza bigger than this. Name any other issue: gun control, immigration, abortion, healthcare. And I will show you a very mature, well-defined, boundaried issue where people knew where they stood on those issues before today, right? And the politicians had carved up all that political territory. And, it's pretty hard to pull a million or even 2 million voters one way or the other. Those issues are mature. The student loan issue is the wild freaking West. Neither party has managed to effectively get their arms around this issue. And there are, as I said, 44 million people freaking out about their student loans who, at the drop of a hat, if it sounds even halfway good, they'll be like, okay, I'm not sure what he just said, but he said loan cancellation, he said bankruptcy. That's one way or another, that's going to help me. So, okay, he's the guy, Biden. And right now, today, it would be Biden. Make no mistake. So, folks, if we are doing our job right here at Student Loan Justice, the only group who is truly fighting for the cancellation of these loans, we were way ahead of the curve. But if we are doing our job right, we will make it so by the time November 3rd comes around, and I know this sounds like pie in the sky, but there is a good chance that if the dynamics around this issue go as they should, there's a chance that by November 3rd, these loans could already be gone. Right? Joe Biden could step up in the next week and say, we put off the student loan thing long enough. I pledge that as president, I will cancel up to $50,000 in student loans as president. Or maybe he'll say up to $100,000. Maybe he'll make it sound even a little better. Donald Trump absolutely will have to respond, or else he will absolutely lose the election. Even now, Donald Trump absolutely has to respond, in my opinion. And I'm usually right about these things. Very rarely am I wrong. So, President Trump could indeed cancel these loans. And believe me, there is a very strong conservative argument for exactly that. And I can tell you on good authority that people at the highest, in the innermost circles of both Trump's administration and Biden's campaign are very well aware of our proposal, and were aware of our proposal long before Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer did their thing that they did last week. So a lot matters on what we, this group, do. And when I say this group, I really mean you. Because this group is nothing but people. We are the weakest structurally group you can imagine. We have almost no budget. We have no staff. We are 100% volunteer. Everything that this group gets done because you and me and everybody who cares about this issue within the sound of my voice, Ed's voice, our 50 state chapters, our group, our petition, they get off their asses, make it their problem, make it this problem their problem, and it is their problem, and do the work necessary to spread the word about our petition like wildfire, to get the media to report on our petition. And that's going great, by the way. Hey, Michelle. But yeah, dudes, this is as grassroots gets. We don't have a staff. We don't have expensive office in Washington, D.C. We don't have $1 million budget. We don't have an army of marketers out there, highly paid, very enthusiastic, swamp creatures at our beck and call to artificially inflate our numbers and make even fake people sign our petition. No. We don't do that. We've never done that. We can't do that. We would never even dream of doing that. This is the most organic grassroots movement that I've certainly ever been involved with, and frankly, pretty much ever been involved in, been aware of even. This truly is grassroots, is what I'm telling you. So between now and November 3rd, I can only hope, I can beg, I can plead, but more than anything, I would just urge you to think about your own situation. I can tell you that we have, in the 15 years of our existence, we've never been in a better position than we are now. We could really, I mean, the sky's the limit. We could theoretically have, I don't know, what do you think, 25, 30, maybe even 40 million people on our petition. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, if everybody with student loans knew about our petition, I'm guessing that 40 million of them would go out of their way to at least sign it. 40 million people is nearly enough people to elect a president. 55 million people is damn close to elect a president. You have no idea how strong we can be. You have no idea how important you sitting there are. It only takes one well-written email to the right producer, reporter, news organization to get us that story that finally, makes everything go viral. And, we're really getting close, folks. I have to tell you, last week we got spotlighted on Newsweek and Heavy.com and Yahoo News and Fox News, not only the little ticker on Fox News, but also Fox News Business. We were this close to going on live on one of the big three major news networks in prime time. Unfortunately, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, and that got a little forestalled, preempted, whatever you want to call it. But dudes, we are close. We are absolutely close. So please, if ever you were going to fight for student loan justice, to end this nationally threatening lending system, if not for yourself, then for the tens or hundreds of millions of people to follow in our footsteps, well, the next month would be that time that you would do that. Right? If we play our cards right, we could get these loans canceled by Election Day. Maybe it'll turn out that we get a pledge from Biden and he stomps and we get these loans canceled by January 20th. And believe me, we are holding Biden, his feet very close to the fire. We cannot endorse Joe Biden right now. The minimum we need to endorse Joe Biden is a pledge in writing that as president on day one, by executive order, he will return bankruptcy protections to student loans. That is the minimum threshold that Joe Biden needs from us for an endorsement. Obviously, if Joe Biden pledges that by executive order, he will cancel federally owned student loans, if he says, if he is clear and unambiguous, and we can take his pledge in writing to a court of law and it would stand up, then obviously we would endorse him too. And in the best case scenario, we will be able to endorse both candidates before the election. Because in that case, it's pretty much game over and we win. And federal student loans are canceled. By the way, we are also pushing very hard for two bills. This is something Congress is actually useful for. Congress is useless for canceling student loans. But for returning bankruptcy protections to the loans that remain, Congress actually turns out to be very useful. The two bills we're fighting for, S-1414, H.R. 2648. So if you have private student loans, this should be very concerning to you. You should really want to get bankruptcy protections returned to these loans. Not because you want to run out and file, but rather just to level the playing field so that you have the threat of bankruptcy back on your side, and that will help you tremendously going forward. So we are fighting for those two bills as well. But folks, right now, it's time to go for the gold. It's time to get these loans gone. We've been throwing trillions of dollars into the economy. 500 billions we threw out in PPP loans, small business loans that don't need to be paid back. Precedent has been set. There is no better, cheaper, most expedient, better targeted, most obvious way to stimulate the economy right now than by canceling these loans. And by the way, coming up with a better, more fair, more rationally priced, meaning lower priced, way to fund higher education in this country. Maybe college, certainly maybe state schools, community colleges should be free. And that's something that we, as the most powerful country in the world, should be able to afford. Maybe the lending system should be suspended and ended forever. In fact, I think that's a good idea. I think the government has no business being in the lending business after what we have seen with this current catastrophe. But whatever the future holds for the future funding of higher education, it all begins here with getting rid of this current nationally threatening big government monstrosity that is now threatening so many people. In a fair world, these loans would have been canceled years ago. In a fair world, this problem never would have happened because they never would have removed the consumer protections that exist for all other loans, and some that are even called for in the Constitution. But whatever. All I know now is that this lending system has got to go. And if you feel bad about your loans going away, well, do you think all those businesses that took out the PPP loans, you think they felt bad about their loans going away? You think all those military contractors who saw a flood of $7 trillion go through them, which they took a huge amount of, and into Afghanistan and Iraq, you think they felt bad about all that, all the mayhem they caused? No, they didn't. Do you think the 43,000 millionaires and billionaires who even in this current pandemic realized on average a $1.7 million a piece stimulus, all of which added to the national debt? Do you think they are feeling bad? I somehow don't think they are. So if you feel bad about your student loans being canceled, well then I urge you, number one, get over it. Number two, do something good. With the money that you would have used to repay your student loans, do something genuinely good. But I am here to tell you that the most important thing, the most patriotic thing that any of us can be doing right now for ourselves, certainly for the economy, definitely, but for the tens or hundreds of millions of people to follow in our footsteps to prevent them from being conquered and enslaved like we are on the verge of, help us fight. It's the most patriotic thing you could possibly be doing. And as corny as it may sound, the country actually needs you on this. So, and we're not asking you to go and do interviews on the news and answer all the tough questions. We can do all that. But you need to contact news organizations and tell them to report on our petition. We will answer all the tough questions. Believe me, we've been sharpening this sword for decades now. We can go on Rachel Maddow or Rush Limbaugh or anywhere in between and answer all the toughest questions and destroy anybody on the other side of this argument. Because our argument is nuclear strength, strong. We cannot be defeated, but we've got to show up and we've got to fight. So what we do, what you do, what all of us do as individuals or in groups on this group, maybe with your state chapters, maybe with your buddy down the street, who knows, maybe as an army of one. What we all do between now and November 3rd, what we all do for the next 30 days is absolutely critical for ourselves, for the country, for our economy, for the future college students in this country, and future students in general. You know, this is the camel's nose under the tent. If they can do to us through student loans what they have done, they can do that to any other group of people under any other sort of debt instrument. Already we're hearing murmurs on the street about them doing something similar, taking away bankruptcy protections from medical debt. I'm telling you, folks, this is a very dangerous and very consequential battle that we find ourselves at the front lines of. We are the tip of the spear, and this group right here, I kid you not, we are the spear. We are the eye of the storm, and we are the storm. So I've gone on far longer than I was planning on. I apologize for that, but please, take my words to heart. This is your life. These are your loans. We need you to help, and you need us. So let us band together and win this together. And keep checking in, please, on a daily basis. Things are going fast, as I said. Keep checking in. Good luck. God bless. Look at the text above or connected to this live stream. There's very specific, easy to follow instructions for a very easy task, group, collective effort that we're doing right now today. Do this before you do anything else, and God bless.